I'm going to keep moving. I was reading in RESPA, early intervention requirements. Not even sure what page I'm on, but we were talking about establishing live contact and sending an early intervention notice before the 45th day of the borrower's delinquency, and that it shall recommend that the borrower contact someone who works for the servicer, provide a telephone number and mailing address, and a statement providing a description of loss mitigation options that may be available to the borrower, if applicable. Either application instructions or a statement informing the borrower how to obtain more loss mitigation information from the servicer. That is on page 269. Moving on, the website and the HUD toll-free number shall be included in the early intervention notice. And what else? The notice is required no more than once in any 180-day period, which means that if somebody goes over 45 days delinquent and then becomes current and then does it again one or more times within a 100-day period, this notice only needs to go out one time during that, 6-month period. Furthermore, included in the early intervention notice is going to be a list of homeownership counselors or organizations, and model clauses may be used to comply with the notice requirements, and nothing in this regulation will require a servicer to communicate with a borrower in a manner that is prohibited by law. Which basically means that if a borrower is in bankruptcy, then you do not have to send these things if it would violate law. And further, there are going to be a lot of different state foreclosure laws that apply to these early intervention notices. The exceptions listed here with regard to the early intervention notice requirements, like I said earlier, is not required for borrowers in bankruptcy, and the borrower who has sent a notice pursuant to Section 805C of the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, requesting that the servicer not contact the borrower. Continuity of contact is in Section 40 of RESPA, and the servicer must maintain policies and procedures designed to achieve the following. That is, assign personnel to a delinquent borrower by the time the servicer provides the 45th days after delinquency, the notice 45 days after delinquency. Make personnel available to a delinquent borrower by telephone to respond to the borrower's inquiries and assist the borrower with available loss mitigation options until the borrower has made 2 consecutive payments without incurring a late charge. That's your SPOC, your single point of contact. And ensure that the servicer can provide live responses to borrower calls in a timely manner. Servicers must maintain policies and procedures to ensure that personnel assigned to delinquent borrowers perform the following functions. And you have an I through, you have 7 things that, 8 things that should be done by your SPOC personnel. I'm going to run down the list. 1. Provide the borrower with accurate information about loss mitigation options available to the borrower. Actions the borrower must take to be evaluated for these options, including the application process, and actions to take to appeal any denial of loss mitigation applications. 2. Provide the borrower with information on the status of any loss mitigation application already submitted. 3. Provide the borrower with information on the status of any pending loss mitigation application. And 4, provide the borrower with information on the circumstances under which the servicer may refer the loan to foreclosure under law. Provide the borrower, this is 5, with application loss mitigation deadlines established by the loan's owner or assignee. 6, retrieve in a timely manner a complete record of the borrower's payment history and all written information the borrower has provided to the servicer or prior servicers, if applicable, in connection with the loss mitigation application. 7. Provide the requisite documents and information for other persons required to evaluate a borrower for loss mitigation options. And 8. Provide a delinquent borrower with information about the procedures for submitting a notice of error or an information request. For loss admit procedures, loss admit apps coverage. A complete loss mitigation application means the application for which the servicer has received all the information that the servicer requires from a borrower in evaluating applications for loss mitigation options available to the borrower. Those criteria for making an application complete must be in policy and procedure, in other words. And then, furthermore, a servicer must use reasonable diligence in obtaining documents and information to complete loss mitigation application. Review of loss mitigation applications 1 through 4. If a servicer receives a loss mitigation application 45 days or more before a foreclosure sale, a servicer must promptly review the application if it is complete and acknowledge the receipt of the application in writing within 5 business days after its receipt. If the application is incomplete, the notice must list the additional documents required to make the application complete. The notice must include a statement that the borrower should consider contacting the servicers of other mortgages secured by the same property to discuss loss mitigation options. And 4th, the notice must include a reasonable date by which the borrower should submit the documents and information necessary to make the loss mitigation application complete. If the determination of whether loss mitigation protections apply to a borrower depends upon the number of days between when a complete loss application is received and when a foreclosure sale occurs, the determination must be made as of the date a complete loss mitigation application is received. Evaluating loss mitigation applications. If the loss mitigation application is received 37 days before a foreclosure sale, then within 30 days of receiving the application, the servicer must evaluate the borrower for all loss mitigation options available and provide the borrower with a notice in writing stating the servicer's determination which loss mitigation options it will offer to the borrower, if any, on behalf of the owner or assignee. The notice must include the amount of time the borrower has to accept or reject the offer. The notice must also include the fact that the borrower has the right to appeal the denial of any loan modification option and amount of time to file the appeal and any requirement for making an appeal. Incomplete loss mitigation applications. A servicer cannot evade the requirement to evaluate a complete loss mitigation application because it is incomplete. Must continue to consider whether the borrower qualifies for any or all loss mitigation options by offering a loss mitigation option based on the evaluation of any information provided in an incomplete application. But there really should be policies and procedures that are explaining when that is going to take place and what would be considered, what pieces of information would be considered to make such a determination. Oh my God, that would be referred to as facially complete applications, and I'm supposed to be talking about that. If I ever can scroll right back around to page 271. Hello, I'm like still 30 pages away from where I just was. Bear with me, I have to scroll to 30 pages. And I got to the right page. If a loss mitigation application remains incomplete for a significant period of time due to the borrower's failure to complete it, the servicer may evaluate the incomplete application and offer the borrower a loss mitigation option. Payment forbearance. A servicer may offer a short-term forbearance program to a borrower based on the evaluation of an incomplete loss mitigation application. Servicer may not make the first notice or filing required by law for a judicial or non-judicial foreclosure process and may not move for foreclosure judgment on order of sale or conduct a foreclosure sale if the borrower is performing pursuant to the terms of a payment forbearance program offered pursuant to this section. This is where the next section is where we discuss the facially complete applications, and when it'll be considered facially complete. If servicer later discovers missing information, servicer must promptly notify the borrower and provide the borrower a reasonable opportunity to complete the application. If the borrower completes the application within the time period, the application will be considered to be complete as of the date it was facially complete for all purposes except for the requirements to evaluate loss mitigation applications. For that purpose, the application will be considered complete on the date it was actually complete. Denial of loan modification options. If a borrower's complete loss mitigation is denied for any trial or permanent loan modification option, the servicer must state in the notice sent to the borrower the specific reasons for the determination and a statement, if applicable, that the borrower was not evaluated on any other criteria. The borrower's response section. For applications received 90 days or more before a foreclosure sale, the servicer may require a response from the borrower no later than 14 days after the offer of loss mitigation option if it was provided. Application received between 90 and 37 days before a foreclosure sale, the servicer may require a response from the borrower no earlier than 7 days. Offers not received within the deadlines may be deemed to be rejected. A borrower who makes a payment under the loan modification plan but does not fulfill all of the servicer's other requirements for accepting the modification plan must allow the borrower a reasonable period of time to fulfill those requirements. If the borrower makes an appeal, a deadline for accepting the loss mitigation option will be extended another 14 days after the servicer notifies the borrower of the decision. Prohibition on foreclosure referral, and this may be the dual tracking section. Servicers may not make the first filing or send the first foreclosure notice until or unless the borrower is more than 120 days delinquent, the borrower has violated a due on sale clause, or the servicer is joining the foreclosure action of subordinate lien holder. If the borrower completes and submits a complete loss application during the pre-foreclosure review period, the servicer may not make the first notice or filing unless the servicer has sent the borrower a notice that the borrower is not eligible for any loss mitigation option and the appeal process is not applicable. The borrower has not requested an appeal. The appeal process is not applicable. The borrower rejects all loss mitigation options, or the appeal has been denied, or the borrower fails to perform under an agreement on a loss mitigation option. Prohibition on foreclosure sale. If a borrower submits a complete loss mitigation application after a servicer has made the first notice of filing for any judicial or non-judicial foreclosure process but more than 37 days before a foreclosure sale, a servicer shall not move for foreclosure judgment and or order of sale or conduct a foreclosure sale unless the servicer has sent the borrower a notice in writing stating the borrower is not eligible for any loss mitigation option and the appeal process is not applicable because the borrower has not requested an appeal within the applicable time period or the appeal has been denied. B. The borrower rejects all loss mitigation options, and C. The borrower fails to perform under a loss mitigation agreement, I should say. More about the appeal process is here at the bottom of page 273. Loan modification denials. If a servicer receives a complete loss mitigation application 90 days or more before foreclosure sale or during the pre-foreclosure review period, a servicer must allow a borrower to appeal the servicer's decision to deny the application. Deadline: the servicer must allow the borrower to have 14 days to make a decision after an offer of a loan modification is extended, and an appeal must be reviewed by a different person than the ones responsible for evaluating the application. The appeal determination, within 30 days of a borrower's making an appeal, the servicer must provide a notice to the borrower stating the servicer's determination of whether the servicer will offer the borrower a loss mitigation option based upon the appeal, and how long the borrower has to accept or reject such an offer. The servicer may require that a borrower accept or reject an offer of a loss mitigation option after the appeal no later than 14 days after the servicer provides a notice to a borrower. The servicer's determination of the first appeal is final, and the servicers are required to comply with the requirements for only one loss mitigation application of a borrower's mortgage loan account. There are small servicer requirements. Definition of a small servicer is one with less than 5,000 loans, for all of which the servicer or an affiliate is a creditor or an assignee. Foreclosure filings for small servicers may not be the first notice of filing for a foreclosure unless the borrower's loan is more than 120 days delinquent, the borrower is in violation of a due on sale clause, or the servicers join the actions of a subordinate lien holder. And lastly, a small servicer may not make a foreclosure filing or move for a foreclosure judgment or order or sale or conduct a foreclosure sale if a borrower is performing pursuant to the terms of an agreement of a loss mitigation application. And next we get to section F, which is completely unrelated, escrow requirements. And once again, we went out of order because this is section 17 of RESPA.